Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rewatch Project with Hannah and Mike. I am Mike, and with me, as always, is Hannah. How are you today, Hannah?
I'm well, thank you.
We are sitting really close to each other, aren't we?
It's really unnatural.
Yes, so we are back, and long-time listeners or viewers, because we are putting this out as a video on YouTube as well, will know that we have just finished doing a rewatch, or in Hannah's case, a watch. The X-Files, all 11 seasons of that franchise. And we have also watched all 13 episodes of the spin-off show, The Lone Gunmen.
Sadly, only 13 episodes.
Sadly, only 13 episodes. Long-time listeners / viewers will also know that I recently had an opportunity to speak to Dean Haglund, the actor who plays the character of Langley on both said shows. And today, well, in the words of the immortal Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. We've got 2 out of 3. I'm pretty sorry about that. We have 2 of the 3 Lone Gunmen. So first of all, we have fellow podcaster, actor, inventor, Dean Haglund, who played the character of Langley. And we are also very lucky to be joined by Bruce Harwood, librarian, avid reader, sex symbol of the Lone Gunmen, and known as the character of Byers, will also be joining us. So let's get to that right now. Well, very well. Thank you so much to the 2 of you for joining us. What a bargain! 2 for 1 we're getting today. We really appreciate your generosity of time.
I tried to add Tom on Instagram, but yeah, I doubt he's seen it.
He's got a lot of fishing to do, that fella.
Yeah,
really. Winter's coming. Yeah, he's got to stock up on some trout to survive in his cabin, whatever.
What's
that filter you got on, by the way? That's very cinematic.
It's called blurred background. So,
but you're lighting, like you got a key light and a fill light. What?
I got my ring light out. See, I'm playing full cinema here. Yeah,
nice.
Playing full cinema. See what you learned on set.
What a renaissance man.
Gotta learn something, man.
I'm so delighted that we've managed to make this work because, Dean, obviously we've had you on before and I had to miss it because our kids had gymnastics and of course I had to take them.
I get it. Me over somersaults.
Wow, exactly. They had to learn how to cartwheel. And I'm pretty sure I like the Lone Gunmen more than I like the X-Files.
Yeah, that's a useful segue, actually, is that it would be great if it's okay with you two. If, I mean, obviously, you know, there are a couple of X-Files questions that we've got, and we've got some questions from our friends on the internet as well. But we'd really like to concentrate on the Lone Gunmen show, if that's okay with you guys.
I insist.
Sure. Well, I just watched the whole series like a month or 2 ago again.
You're kidding.
Did you?
Yeah.
So
I found the DVD box at the bottom of my storage. It was like, oh, this thing.
I think I still have the DVD that was on sale at something, and the sale sticker for like $4.99 was right over my face, so you can see Bruce and Tom. But the $4.99 is like right over my head.
It was Bruce and Tom in the factory putting the stickers on those things. Was it?
Was that you? You were working there, weren't
you? Well, when you say 2 for 1, now we know how much we get, right?
Oh my gosh! Well, thank you so much for joining us, for 2 of you. I guess a great place to start is, when did you 2 last see each other?
The last convention we were at, which was in where was
Minneapolis.
That was
Mall of the Americas.
Right.
Yeah, and I got COVID so bad.
Oh no!
You did?
Holy smokes! I was in this studio isolating right behind you there, and at one point I called Patty. I said, "You know what? I think I'm just going to check into the hospital just to intubate so I can get a full night's sleep without coughing." And she's like, "Don't do that. What are you, insane? Don't go and stick a tube down your throat just so you could have a little nap. Like, it's never through it, you sucker."
Is that your partner?
Yes, Patty and I. She's my fiance. We're getting married.
Ooh, congratulations.
Congrats.
I was going to say that sounds exactly like when Mike's sick. I'm very,
Pragmatic
suck
is
it
the
up,
kind word, I
line,
think.
Get on with it.
Yeah. Well, we've been together 18 years, so I didn't want to rush it by asking her.
You had to be really sure.
Yeah. So here we are, getting married in March of the next year. So
congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Bruce. I'd invite you, but I'm sure, a destination wedding seems very.
It's okay. You can send me the pictures. I'll be fine with that.
I can see that you two have a shorthand. I mean, can you remember your first meeting?
Yeah, it was a trailer on the first day. We didn't audition together.
No, it was what was the episode?
EBE.
Yeah, thank you.
So episode 13, season 1, EBE. I don't know what casting was like for you. I don't know if I ever asked, but I read against 5 other guys, including Gary Jones, my best friend from Stargate SG-1, to play Byers. So all these other guys, King, what was that actor's name who got so many commercials? Last name King.
Don't know.
Vancouver. Alan King.
I do
Alan
love
King,
this,
no,
though.
that doesn't sound right. Yeah, he was a larger guy, but he was funny. So they were casting me against some of Vancouver's top comedic talent to see if it was like super comedy or shall we play a little more serious? Like they didn't know which way to go at all. So when I got to set, it was like, oh, you're Byers. And then I go, who'd they get for Frohickey? And you said, oh, the first AD. And I go, no.
Yeah.
What kind of operation of the?
Yeah. We both had that reaction of like, oh yeah, that they're really taking this seriously. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, the one day, just stick the first AD and he can say a line.
And Tom looked so mad about it too. I remember that.
Why did he look mad? I don't remember that.
He just all ADs look all the first ADs always look angry, but
yeah.
But he
was in full business mode on the AD.
He's
side,
like every time they put an AD in an acting job, the AD always looks angry about being. Every AD I've seen slotted into an acting part is always like, I don't want to do this. I won't do my real job.
I got real work to do. Yeah.
Do you think you guys connected quite quickly? Because I sort of feel like your on-screen chemistry between the three of you was really apparent.
Yeah,
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we did.
Well, there was no screen test. There was no nothing. It just lucked out that none of the three of us were a major dick. minor, I'll take it.
Yeah, that came later.
Didn't have a chance to. Didn't have a chance to be at that point. It was half a day of work.
That's right. No one could be a prima donna. I'm not reading this stuff. God, my trailer. Like nobody did that.
Excellent.
And was there any sense that this could potentially be recurring, or was it just pitched as a one-off?
No.
One-off.
Not at all.
Like so many things coming through Vancouver. Well, how many drug dealers have I been? Crackheads.
Why was that? Was that the long hair? Was that just the long hair that resulted in that?
Yeah, just the long hair. Like you come in, you flub your lines. They don't care. You look completely. And I'd be exhausted because I'd be performing until 2 a.m. and then have to come and audition at 10. And then I'd be like all droopy-eyed with long hair and like, hey, you want to buy drugs? Excellent. So I was in the Street Justice, the Commish, I had a whole roll of Polaroids with me at my little tiny dressing room, the little one-banger, and I was just pointing at my characters' names, and they're always drug dealer, crackhead, junkie, guy in alley, guy in gutter. I was gutter guy in one.
Gutter guy.
I mean, you're very convincing, Dean. You're making me want to buy drugs right now. Actually, just talking to you. But what about you though, Bruce? Did you have a type at that point?
Byers is my type. Yeah, basically, that was like drilling down to the exact kind of part I always seem to get asked to play. Excuse me.
Was that your own suit too? I think.
No. They actually dressed me. They were a classier outfit than that. Yeah, no, I remember actually talking about whether I thought the show whether our characters would come back. I remember seeing the episode because it was like the only episode of X-Files in season 1 that I actually watched. There was that and the one about Sasquatch. And I watched us and I went like, oh, our characters don't even need to be there. That information could have been like a sentence that Mulder or Scully said to each other, like, why are we even there? So the fact that we got asked back to play the same part was like, huh? Okay, well, I'll take the money.
That was the thing. We it's like, there's no way. In fact, the glasses I wore came from a prop bag, a Ziploc bag of 1,000 glasses. And the props guy just says, hey, pick a pair. And then I wear them and then I throw them back. And for like the next 4 times I come on set, he's doing the same thing. And finally he goes, which pair did you pick? So we should set that aside. Like he suddenly realized, because if you look at the first 4 or 5 episodes of the X-Files that we're in, I'm wearing a different pair of glasses every time. And some of the directors are going, where's those glasses you wore the last episode? I go, in a bag.
In the bag somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully you did return. And of course, your first appearance was pre-cultural phenomena X-Files. But and Bruce, I told a sort of brief story to Dean last time about how I'm a giant geek. I always have been. I'm a very early adopter of TV shows, so I was with the X-Files from the very beginning. And I remember standing in the city centre in Birmingham, England, where I'm from, and I was chatting to a friend, fellow geek, and we noticed there was an X-Files display in the shop window, and we walked down the high street, and the next shop window also had an X-Files display in it. And then like 3 out of 5 of the stores. And we were like, what on earth is happening with this X-Files show? So what was that like? What was it? Was it a slow dawning realization that you were part of this huge thing?
I'll tell you my story. I was working at the time part-time at the public library in Vancouver. And which was a great job because I could basically drop it if I had an audition or a day of acting work. And like all I had to do was lie and say I was sick and nobody ever punished me for anything. But people sort of would like, well, what do you do, when you're not working in the library? And I say, well, I'm an actor. And they say, oh, what have you done? And I go, well, I've been in MacGyver. I've been in 21 Jump Street. And they would just go, And then I said, oh, no, I was also in this thing called the X-Files. And every person, these are all librarians. Every one of them would go, have you watched that show? Like it was the only thing that excited them that I had done. It's like everybody knew what MacGyver was and Stargate and, all those, they all knew those shows, but only the X-Files would get people sitting up straight in their seats and saying, have you watched that show? And I would have to say, no, actually.
I think that was for definitely me and you. I didn't watch any X-Files till maybe season 4.
Really?
Like even the episodes we were in, because I was always performing on the weekends when it was on Fridays, and then I was always on stage, and I didn't have a VCR, so everybody said, oh my god, I saw you, that was great. I'm like, okay, great, thanks. And
I started watching season 2 when we got called back to do Blood, the episode Blood. That's when and I remember the vibe that the crew had when we came back. They were like, oh, this is something. You could feel this excitement on the crew of this, like, we have actually got something exciting that we're in.
Yeah, because you remember sitting at the picnic table on Blood, and David Nutter comes by with a magazine, Cinefantastique, and it's a review of EBE, and there's a paragraph where it said, we stole the show, and it's David Nutter. And David Nutter, if you don't know that director, he's just been awarded by the Directors Guild of America the first lifetime achievement award for a TV director.
Yeah, he's like the pilot guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the pilot guy. You get.
Does anyone call him the nut job?
I don't know. We never called him the nut job to his face. But David Nutter,
in our geek circles, everybody refers to David Nutter as the nut job affectionately.
Oh. Yeah, very, very affectionately.
Brilliant director. Legend. And what you don't know is that if you direct a pilot for the rest of the run of that series, you get a piece of that money.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he had a producer credit too, didn't he?
Which one?
David Nutter had a producer credit for the first 5 seasons, didn't he?
Oh, I think you're right too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Probably goes with the shooting that pilot.
I can't imagine the dough that guy's rolling in.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I guess the other connected thing to the show as a cultural phenomena is your specific role in that. And I mean, Dean and I talked a little bit about this when he was last on, so I'd be curious to get your take on this, Bruce, because obviously our relationship with the idea of conspiracy and truth as a culture has changed significantly since 9/11 and since the last few years, and obviously season 1 of The Lone Gunmen and its connections to 9/11, both from a timing and from a sort of dark prophecy, I guess, perspective. But of course, The Lone Gunmen now are kind of the poster boys for conspiracy and are a huge part of what pop culture thinks of in its collective mind's eye when it comes to this idea of conspiracy. I was just wondering what your thoughts were, Bruce, now on the relationship of those characters with the idea of conspiracy and how that's changed over the years.
Well, you mentioned 2001, and I actually think that the bulk of the X-Files, I was sort of digging into a kind of millennial thing. This whole concept of the years clicking over to 2000, and you remember there was a great deal of weird conspiracy vibe,
Y2K,
in like 98, 99 and stuff about the year, about clicking over to year 2000 and how everything was, the computer systems was going to collapse, and this, and I think somehow the X-Files locked into that spirit of the 90s. Mm. And then we clicked over into 2000 and the computers didn't crash and society continued to exist. And then 2001 came along and suddenly the whole, everything sort of twisted at that point. The sort of the sense of the culture twisted. And I mean, the X-Files had already been on the air for like 6 years at that point. So it definitely was digging down to the dry bedrock beneath the original well. Mm. But I think the sort of spirit went out of the show in a sense. Mm. And so what conspiracies are now, since 2011 and since Trump, have completely changed.
It's like it's on steroids now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also the way the culture feeds on it is different. It's like the difference between conspiracies in a time where actually everything is kind of okay, socially speaking, the Clinton years and stuff like that. Lots of conspiracies, but actually we're doing okay. Flip to conspiracies in a time when we're actually doing really badly. And there's all kinds of horrible things happening. And suddenly these conspiracies go from gunman conspiracies, which are kind of cute and fun, but safe, right over to things that are absolutely toxic and dangerous.
I think that's a really fundamental difference that you referenced there.
Just today, apparently, FEMA is in North Carolina trying to help people from the hurricanes, and they had to shut down operations because there was a report of 2 trucks of armed militia hunting for FEMA workers in North Carolina. Now, I don't know if that's actually true or not, but they actually stopped doing anything because they didn't want guys in camel gear jumping out and killing their people. So This is where it's gone. From sitting in a basement going, go ahead.
What we had to do back in the day is actually connect the dots, right? You actually had to say a sentence that connect the dots. Now you can just go, Democrats control hurricanes, and everybody's like, oh yeah, 100%. And nobody goes like, how or why or how, like, nobody needs that analytical. We just need like somebody to say the sentence out loud on something that echoes, and then everybody's like, oh, 100%. Let's get our guns. Let's get in a van. Let's go find who's controlling the hurricanes. And
I saw this great meme. I mean, social media is so responsible for so much misinformation. But I saw this great meme the other day about how conspiracy theorists have said for years that anything people do doesn't affect climate change and to stop going on about it because we don't have any effect on climate change. But now they're saying the government's responsible for an actual hurricane.
Well, one of the big differences I think that you referenced there, Bruce, was the idea that there were quite cozy conspiracies, I think is the word that you used back in the 90s. There was something very fun, and there was an element of escapism.
Yeah.
There were thought exercises in order to escape. Whereas now they're very confronting and I think sort of and divisive, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the difference between Agatha Christie and Hannibal Lecter, I guess.
Right.
That seems a weird comparison, but sure. But the idea that you have a little science or some facts that you draw a line from, if this happens and that happens and this, and we connect that, therefore this, whereas they do that, and it was like, yep, 100%. Like there's no analytical thought to how a conspiracy manifests itself.
And I suppose social media, like, TikTok culture, Instagram videos, taking your information from someone like us sitting on a video going, hey,
we are part of the podcast as a part of the problem. Hannah.
This is 100% what the situation is, and this is the truth, and you should believe me. Whereas, like back in X-Files days, probably, and obviously, before that, you had to sort of dig out the articles, read the information,
go to libraries.
Right, and I think that's the assumption now, is that somebody has done the homework, that has researched it out, and that it has it made to this level that I hear about it. Therefore, it must be true because I'm hearing about it. Whereas, before it was like, oh, show me all the lines that you drew to get to this point, right?
Yeah. Well, there's also the echo chamber effect of social media, which is once you're locked into the people you like to talk to, you don't need to do the long form. You can just do the short form.
Yeah. On to something a bit lighter. How do you feel being a representation of geek culture and fandom?
I mean, are we? Hasn't that changed?
100%.
Like
who isn't Elon Musk a geek? Isn't Mark Zuckerberg a geek?
The Lone Gunmen was certainly a stepping stone.
Yeah.
In that representation. I mean, I think about the character of Langley, the idea of somebody who's into punk rock being somebody who is into technology, whereas prior to that, it was all pocket protectors, wasn't it?
Yeah. Right, and tape on the bridge of your glasses and all that sort of thing.
Very Revenge of the Nerds-esque.
So, and I think that, I mean, if you look at the X-Files coming up at the rise of message boards and the idea of these collective fandom experiences, and the Lone Gunmen themselves being quite pop culture savvy characters within the context of the show, did you feel any sense of kinship with the audience of the show because of your characters kind of coming from that world, or did you sense kinship from the fans because of those things?
Kinship, I would rephrase as affinity, not quite kinship. I was just at a university. Was I just at a university? I think I had fourth year to go when the X-Files started. But I was friends with a lot of guys in computer science because our theater thing was right next to the computer science lab. And all of those guys, in fact, my ex-girlfriend married a computer guy who designed the sound EQ software that Skid Row used in performing at stadiums.
Oh, wow.
So he toured with Skid Row, perfecting his software that he then sold for millions of dollars.
Wow.
And so my idea of a computer geek is the guy who hands out with Skid Row gets to go to all their concerts and balance out EQ. So
that's my kind of geek. Yeah.
Bringing that sensibility, that was my idea of like, this is where cutting edge computer programming and hacking and all that stuff. So the affinity wasn't for the pocket protector, thing. The affinity was for the guys I knew, right? And so apparently that was prevalent around the world, because then everywhere I went, go, oh my God, I got a friend just like you. Yeah, he's got long hair and he loves, all the punk bands, and he's, designed a piece of software that he sold for $9 million, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so
now that I think about it, I guess our characters were kind of in the sort of libertarian anarchist vein, politically speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
trying to be disruptors and stuff.
Yeah, early disruptors.
Yeah.
But even that, I think the apoliticalness of the Lone Gunmen was like there was no, it was all the government is, lying to you. So it's not just apolitical.
It was non-partisan completely.
It's nonpartisan. It was across the board. And so there was this fight of the proletariat against the bourgeoisie, more throwing it back to the 1960s, right? That there is a rise of the common guy coming up from the basement, putting out a newspaper, for crying out loud. For cutting edge computer guys, why are we printing on newspaper?
Yeah, that was weird. Rewatching the show, I was like, wow, my character anyway was really into this whole idea of like 60s era journalism of like, no, we have to substantiate everything. We have to have people on the record and all this stuff. And like real news organizations today don't do that.
And with Byers, I think that there's such a, how well defined was Byers early on in the X-Files? Because I think some of his defining elements, his earnestness, I think.
I'm sorry.
And
I'm laughing because the definition was he wears the suit.
Oh, really? Wow.
Langley has the long hair
and rock t-shirts.
And Frowicki's the short, weird guy. That was the definition.
Jacket.
Yeah.
He's hot for Scully. That was basically the sketch of the characters.
But those defining elements that would come though, was that a collaborative sort of symbiotic thing that came from you? So again, in the case of Byers, that kind of earnestness around integrity and truth, was that just something that grew slowly, or how did you feel that definition come about?
If I had anything to do with it, it was just the writers watched my performance and said, no, write to that kind of thing. And also, I mean, this is a guy who wears a suit, who lives in a filthy old basement, and, hangs out with two of the sketchiest looking guys you've ever seen. And I never questioned why he would wear a suit, because that was just the thing. Come, put on the suit, say the lines, go home. Yeah. But when we went to do the series, I started to think like, oh no, this is like some sort of weird uniform this guy wears. So that becomes part of his character, is like this conscious, like he doesn't have to wear a suit. He could wear a t-shirt and jeans. He'd be fine. But his conscious effort was like, no, I'm putting on a suit and tie and I'm shaving every morning. And my one, lone visual indication of rebellion is the beard I have on. And that's, and even then I'm going to trim it carefully. So it just became this.
I thought it gave like
definitely weird character thing.
Vibes. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, what? No, it's okay. What did you say?
I thought it gave very university professor vibes.
Yeah, well, that's my vibe too, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Librarian.
Exactly. You nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed that librarian job you still have.
So how far through the X-Files did you find out about the spin-off?
Wow. Well, I do that
the day before, the day after they announced it, I believe. Remember that?
Wow.
Remember that day we were at that party and people were asking us what a Lone Gunmen TV series would be like. We were all laughing because it was the biggest joke in the world. And next morning,
in fact, I had the joke going, "Oh, yeah, I thought they said spin-off, but in fact they said piss off." And that got me in trouble, all sorts of BBC. But the party that Bruce is referring to is the Television Critics Association. All the TV critics from around North America are flown to Hollywood for this lush, elaborate party and presentation of new shows, trying to get them to write ink about it. And then we're at that party going, "Hey, congrats! Look, we heard about that spinoff." And we're like, "Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'll piss off,
Yeah.
And then the guy from Winnipeg, I'm from Winnipeg Free Press guy corners me. He goes, "No, seriously, they just announced a Lone Gunmen spinoff." And then I go to Bruce and Tom and go, apparently that's a serious thing. And they go, no, they would have told us. And then we have to shoot that night. Do you remember? We had a 3 a.m. call and Chris Carter's directing down over in
I've forgotten that.
Yeah. No, it's first person shooter. We were shooting at night.
No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
So
all
we
I know
get
is
to the trailer
I knew for certain the morning we got the newspaper. Like woke up in the morning and the Washington Post or something was on our doorstep, and it had a mention in the entertainment section that we were going to be a spinoff. That's when I first heard about. Yeah,
That's amazing.
No, but I told you, and then we went to Chris Carter on set, and we said, "Hey, Chris, everybody at the television, all those TV critics saying we got a spinoff," and he goes, "What? Yeah, they're all saying we got a spinoff." He goes, and he calls to assistant, "Can I have my phone?" This is like 3 a.m, and then he just walks away on his phone, and he walks off, going, and we're like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And then I sit in the trailer, paranoid me, and I go, "Oh, I know the problem," and I knock on your door and I go, "There is a spinoff, but we're not in it."
Oh, a recast.
Recast it. And I'm like, I spread this delusional fear into you two of like,
you said
we're going to get Luke Perry and
Jason Priestley was going to play my part or something.
Jason Priestley, they were going to get all these big 9021 stars to like cover us and do a spinoff. And that's why we hadn't heard about it. The agents are negotiating with those big shots, and then we're like sitting there, and then the next day, that's the Washington Post, and then Entertainment Weekly, and all that came out.
Yeah.
But
it was like done. It was sort of announced as a last minute thing. Like whoever was head of television production at Fox in those days, was like leaving the podium and just sort of said it over his shoulder, like, "Oh yeah, and we're giving a Lone Gunmen thing."
Like a mic drop at the end of his...
As he was walking out, it's like, "Oh, by the way." Yeah.
No, I forgot to mention this other thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I love that.
That's incredible. And of course, I mean, the show itself, whilst, of course, sharing a lot of the aesthetics of the X-Files, was a very different show, both tonally and conceptually. And I'm just wondering how you felt about the introduction of Jimmy and Eve, the bringing in these characters to fill out the cast. What did that do to the sort of chemistry and the dynamic of the group, and how did you feel about that at the time?
I thought we needed Jimmy just so we could have something so we couldn't, like in the pilot, we didn't have Jimmy, and we had to turn to each other and explain things we already knew, which is the worst example of exposition you can get. Yeah. So we needed to have an extra person in the room who was a dum-dum, or at least didn't know any of the stuff that we knew, so we could turn to him and explain it. So someone like him had to be there. And then Eve had to be there as a kind of Sunday morning cartoon villain, to a nemesis to keep us, energized and juiced and keep going and stuff like that. So I know why the characters are there, and I like the actors very much. I didn't mind them at all. Well, I know some people got PO'd about it, but because it wasn't their gunman. But
right, they weren't cool anymore. It was like a comedy show.
Yeah.
You see, I really, watching it was obviously, I've only just finished the X-Files for the first time ever recently. And
so you made it through season 9 then?
Oh, and 10 and 11.
We're advocates of those later.
I'm very completist.
Okay,
and
good.
Mike said, "Right, well, we need to watch The Lone Gunmen if you want to watch everything." And I just loved how you could see that there was so much scope to change the show as it went on, like sort of Fringe vibes, in that it starts off very episode of the week, you're battling various problems, and
it was starting to develop its own mythology, wasn't it?
Comes into it, and you could see that if it had been given a couple more seasons to expand, before long you would have ended up with a parallel universe where Frohickey has a black moustache, and he's evil, and there would have been just so many ways it could have gone, and it's such a shame that you didn't get the chance to explore that.
And of course, Vince Gilligan being a big voice on that show, and I know that he still talks about the Lone Gunmen as being a real regret. What was working with Vince Gilligan on that show like?
Well, it's just they were writing in LA. We didn't really see them much. They would occasionally show up to set and sort of sit around watching what we were doing. And then that one time we found out we were going to be working with a talking chimp when. Or was it we were working with a talking chimp, and Vince came over, and Dean, you said, "So what's next?" And he said, "Midget wrestling," and walked away or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no.
And then the next episode, midget wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Vince and I hung out. I had moved to LA around that time, and then was announced I moved back to Vancouver just for the show, and then moved back down to Los Angeles. So I was back and forth. So I was hanging out with Vince a couple of times at his house and stuff as we talked. And for them, it really was. He said, it gets gloomy doing 10 seasons of serious Mulder Scully stuff. And they were like so happy just to blow the roof off and have the ability just to write freer and not so constrained in mythology and that sort of thing. So they really loved it. And it is true. Vince one regret that show never made it past one season.
Do you think the monkey episode was your weirdest kind of what the hell am I doing here kind of episode, or was there something else?
The monkey episode was?
Do you think that was, or?
Well, I mean, wrestling was pretty up there too.
Yeah, actually, I actually like that episode because we had Stephen Tobolowsky in that.
Yeah.
And he's amazing.
Was he in the monkey episode?
Yeah, or no, not the monkey episode. He was in the midget wrestling episode.
Oh yeah, Adam, I had him. Where he chainsaws the front of his house off. Which wasn't digital, by the way. That was
really?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. They had
just like one take and we're done
for destruction.
Yeah,
and we had one take, so they said everybody just sit in the kitchen, don't screw this up, and then the whole house fell off into the front yard.
Yeah,
like, great cut. We're like, what the hell's going on?
Did you? Was it a bit of a reunion in the sense that did a lot of the people who worked on the X-Files when it was shot in British Columbia, and obviously the X-Files had made its move to LA at that point, and you returned to, but you were shooting Lone Gunmen in British Columbia. Was it a lot of people who worked on the X-Files pre-move?
I think some of the people who worked on the pilot were X-Files people, but we had a mostly new crew when we actually went to series, right?
Yeah. The camera guy was new, but JP was still holding the purse strings in the office. So a lot of the office crew was the same. And then the stunt coordinator guy who won the lottery during our show, he was the same. Do you remember that story?
No, I don't.
Like he literally won the lottery.
He literally won, the British Columbia lottery. Him and another guy, they had been playing the same numbers for years. And then it came in like, it wasn't that big. It was like $2 or $3 million, but they like both got a 1.5. And it's like, oh, are you quitting your job? No, I love it here.
Yeah.
He just banged
oh, well,
like,
because stunt people are crazy. That's why.
Can you tell us about the van, shooting in the van? Because you spend a lot of time in there. Was that a cramped, difficult, unpleasant experience, or how was that?
We had at least 3 or 4 different vans,
3, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there was like 1 for location, 2 or 3 for set, or something like that.
One was empty that allowed Stephen to roll it down the ditch. Yeah, it was like, we got to chat, and he's supposed to be such a goofus strong guy that he flips.
Oh, that's right. He's doing the physics of how he can.
Yeah. And that was a van that was completely stripped of everything, so it had no engine or anything.
Right.
And then we had the one that actually runs, so we could start it and drive off. Yeah. And then we had the one that had the periscope and all the stuff in the back and all the radio equipment.
That could be kind of dismantled so they could get cameras in different places and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we did most of the interiors in studio, which is always years and years. And the magic of movies still amazes me. Is like you'll see us running in, on location and diving into the van. Cut to us diving into the van in studio 5 days later or something like that, and pretending it just happened. I just think, wow, this is crazy.
Hannah, you've got a question, Hannah, haven't you? As a professional ballroom dancer.
Yeah. So I'm a qualified dance teacher, and I used to represent New Zealand with competing, like competition dancing.
Wow. Look at you.
Nice.
I loved the tango episode. It's so good. And okay, I wouldn't say any of you are professional level tango dancers, but you all
I was just
gave
going to
it a-
apologize for the dancing in that episode.
I
was the only
thought
one
they
with dance training.
choreographed it so well to kind of not make it so terribly difficult for you guys. And I mean, Tom was amazing as well. Just his intense
Yes.
vibe.
Well, I remember they brought all three of us into a dance studio to dance.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted. I think I was jet lagged coming from somewhere. And I believe my instructor was very displeased with my attitude because but then I was like, wait a sec, I just read the script. I'm not dancing in this one. I'm in a pool of blood. So why I don't really need to take these classes.
Yeah.
Tom and Bruce have to learn how to tango. I believe
you get to lie there.
I just lie there. Yeah. In a pool. I can do that without instruction. Thank you. And so
what I learned about the tango was the man just stands there and looks dignified and the woman does all the work.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Which could be a metaphor for a lot of things.
I was about to say that travels well as a comparison.
Yeah.
That does. And as Hannah mentioned, it was interesting because we did. It was a rewatch for me, but a first time watch for Hannah of all 11 seasons of the X-Files. And it was funny because it all came to a head because we watched The Lone Gunmen afterwards. But then, of course, The Lone Gunmen ends on a cliffhanger, a really cruel cliffhanger. So, of course, we had to finish up by going back and rewatching Jump the Shark to get a sense of closure from that. So the end of our 2-year rewatch of the X-Files franchise was Jump the Shark, the season 9 episode. It was quite emotional for us, wasn't it? We were like, oh my gosh, because we just spent 13 episodes with you to have that ending.
Plus, I didn't want the Lone Gunmen to die.
Well, so I'm going to ask, how did you feel about that ending? How did you feel about the ultimate fate, the heroic demise of the gunman?
I was ready for them to be dead. I don't know why. At the time, it was like, this is good. Yeah. I think, Dean, you said that, the other choice was us wandering off into the Chaplin-like into the distance with our bindles over our shoulders kind of thing.
Yeah, sticking a hobo bag into the sunset. Like that's
But I just wanted us to get blown up. I would have preferred to get blown up rather than poisoned to death. I just thought that's just okay, this is a long story. There's a movie from the 70s called The Hindenburg with George C. Scott and Anne Bancroft.
I love that movie.
Yeah. And at the end of the film, spoilers for a movie that's almost as old as I am, the Hindenburg blows up and George C. Scott is blown to pieces by the bomb that causes it. And there's this shot in black and white because they transition from the color film to the black and white documentary footage of the Hindenburg going down.
Right.
And so there's this explosion where it goes from color to black and white as George C. Scott is blown the length of the Hindenburg. And I've always wanted to die that way on a movie screen. Just to be standing there looking at a bomb and going, oh no, and then just flying across the screen, engulfed in flames. And I thought I think all three of us could have gone out like that. Just like, go Mulder, go Scully, we'll save you, kaboom, and we fly across the room.
Yeah.
But it was emotional for a lot of people. I got a call from the Ramones, actually, because they were big fans of the show. And he said we were all crying. And it's like the last image you want in your head is all the Ramones bawling over your episode. But,
well, of course, you've done the impassioned speech about the integrity of the Ramones to the great Michael McKean. And I've got about Michael McKean, of course, joined you on The Lone Gunmen as well. What was your experience working with McKean?
He's a pro. That guy's a pro.
He's so good.
He was so sharp.
I also knew him from improv days, and we had a lot of comedian friends in common, Rick Overton and stuff like that. And I brought up to him that my fellow improviser in Vancouver joined Spinal Tap on stage for a Canada Day 3-city concert. They started in St. John, Newfoundland, flew to Toronto, and then flew to Vancouver all on July 1st, doing 3 concerts all on Canada Day. And they said he said that was their favorite show. And they hired some actresses, but 2 of the actresses thought this was a real heavy metal band. Only my friend knew they were a fake comedy band. So she goes behind Michael McKean and like she's grabbing his tongue and dry humping him like this, like super. And he's like, who is this actress? She's hilarious. And she's like all over him. And they were like, it was a hilarious. And he remembered her. What was that? 10 years later.
That's amazing.
Fearless performer, Michael McKean is. But
I know.
You've both been so generous with your time. We won't keep you any longer, but we just want to say thank you so much to the two of you for joining us and for giving us these great characters. And I just hope that the show, that The Lone Gunmen, does find its way onto streaming at some point soon, so it can.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube in Canada. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
That tells you how many residuals we're getting from that show.
Yeah, those YouTube residuals pay real great. I hear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I haven't watched it since ever. I don't even think I've seen all the episodes, frankly. Isn't that embarrassing?
Well, in my opinion, it holds up.
Yeah, it's such a great fun
2024 first watch. It was great.
Yeah, and it feels very much like the kind of almost like the last breath of innocence before 9/11 and before all of those big changes that would come. So I think that it's time stamped in the best possible sense.
I'm the type of viewer who likes everything to just turn out all right at the end.
Yeah.
And it felt like that a lot, that I was in very safe hands.
Until Jump the Shark.
Yes. Yeah. But ultimately, they did make it all right in the end to their own detriment.
They did. So thank you so much for all of the entertainment you've brought us and for your generosity of time today, guys. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you
so
much. Thank you, guys. It was so lovely to meet you both.
Likewise. Thank you again. Any other episodes that you're watching, give me a call.
Will do.
Will do.
Really appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys. Be well.
You bet. You too.